lady called Amal Abdulrahman. Amal Abdulrahman is a project coordinator who's born and raised in Toronto, Canada, but currently lives in Baltimore, Maryland, where she works as a public health researcher at Johns Hopkins. Since she was young, Amal had an interest in Harari history and learning about her own cultural ceremonies and customs. This led to her joining the Toronto Harari Ada group, focused on learning tradition, songs, and cultural history. She began working with threads of memory to continue exploring traditions and working together towards the preservation of the Harari culture. Please welcome Amal Abdulrahman.
Right, assalamualaikum everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Amal. I'm one of the project coordinators on the Threads of Memory project. Next slide. I want to start off by saying this quote. Our ancestors once weaved arrays of our past in time, leaving nothing but threads of memory. If all is to say nothing is to be left of this culture, who will reweave the fabric of our history? This quote inspires the Threads of Memory project, and the photo on the left showcases the moigar, which is a traditional skill building among young women, where they learn to weave baskets and molds, which are the translation, and also the pillowcases and other traditional wear. Next slide. So a little bit about the Threads of Memory project. We're an initiative that started in 2017, and we are a team of people working to preserve the culture and history of the Harari people. What once was a well-documented and robust culture is today considered endangered by its people and academic experts alike. The photo on the left, my left, is showcasing the Ayabida ceremony, which showcases elderly women visiting the shrine of Ayabida, who was the first queen of Harari at Asumbar, one of the 5 gates of Harari. The women gather here, and it's considered a blessed gathering. As part of the ceremony, they prepare sirri, which is a cake and flat-like bread, eaten with icing made from sugar, ghee, and pre-harvested beans. And they also make Sharqahwa, which is a drink made with milk and ground coffee bean shells. This preparation of food honors the newlyweds, as sirri is only made on days that Harari is considered important. Next slide. So the goals of the Threads of Memory project. Throughout history, Harari's well-documented scriptures were either taken to foreign libraries, lost, or destroyed. What remains today is inaccessible due to a lack of resources to have these texts translated. So to preserve our identity, the people of Harari passed down their culture and customs through oral history and songs from the mouths of the elders and the hearts of the offspring. We aim to document these culture and customs of the Harari people in these 3 ways. The first is the Harari Culture and Customs series, where we focus on 5 volumes that capture our Harari customs and traditions. The first volume is Wedding Traditions, which we have published, and the second one is Social Institutions, which few of us to publish. We are working on volume 3 that captures cultural and religious holidays, and plan to publish volume 4, which covers folklore and children's play, and lastly, volume 5, which covers kings and queens of Harari. The second is the manuscript preservation series, and the goal is to protect the religious texts, some of their literature of Harari and its history. Many of these manuscripts today are kept in university and museum archives and are unavailable to the mass. The last goal that we are working on is the cultural preservation series, which will capture 2 books, one being the Noble Zikhayrat, and the second being the Little Fuka. Next slide, please. Awesome. So this is a bit about our team structure. We have a group across North America, Ethiopia, Europe, and Australia that works to put this project together. Our oral sources are elderly and young individuals who give us the rich history and culture that we document in our books. We have a team of researchers that interview these elderly and older individuals, and then we also have transcribers who translate the interviews from Diyanet into English. The other roles are the project coordinators, which includes myself, and we handle the organization of the book structure and also administrative tasks. We have co-authors who write the body of the text and illustrators who paint the pictures showcasing the traditional ceremonies and customs. A bit about the process of developing our books. The researchers conduct interviews with elders and their individuals in the Ethiopian and Harari diaspora and communities. Once those are completed, they are translated into English, and then the writers write the body of the script, followed by editor review and finalization, and lastly we have the illustrators develop the cover and the other designs. So volume 1 showcases wedding traditions. This book showcases both the historical and contemporary structure of the Harari wedding and how it's conducted. It's developed into 5 parts. The first part showcases the courting process, including Shawwal Eid, which is the feast of Shawwal, and Wanta Foraja, which is the carpet and mantle in the home. The second part showcases the engagement ceremonies, including Shajat, which is the proposal and engagement, the Zaganaya Mishuna, which is assigning a wedding date, and the Zagan, which is the wedding hall. Part 3 showcases the pre-wedding ceremonies of I Abiga, the blessing of the marriage, Aruz Mawala, the invitations to the wedding, and Zagan Karavu, which is the wedding hall. Part 4 is the grand wedding ceremony of the Alam Asbar, breaking the pen, Angkal Maktab, which is the grand ceremony, the Nikah, which is the Islam wedding ceremony, and the Aruz Maktab, which is the coming home, which is the cover. Part 5 is the post-wedding ceremonies, which is the Bakal the check-in, Inat Gabata, which is the mother's feast, and with the Moga, the bride's rite of passage. Next slide. Okay. Volume 2 is our second published book, which showcases the social institutions, and it showcases both the historical and contemporary structures of these social institutions that play a vital part in developing Harari's community, and and it captures 3 parts. So the first part is from the cradle to the grave. It showcases the Haraskar, which is the welcoming of life, Balachugar, the wedding gathering, Yantal Avet, which is the comforting of the sick, Amutagar, which is the funeral gathering. Part 2 is seeking knowledge and includes Quran, which is the beginning of the journey to learn Quran, Kabir God, which is the path to higher learning, and Nabi God, which is the home of the prophetic remembrance. Part 3 is the social gatherings, including Afotagar, which is the framework of the community, Moigar, which is the cultivating of trade and skills, and lastly, Bantagar, which is the regional gathering. Next, I want to talk a bit about our manuscript preservation. So as mentioned, this is a sub-initiative for our project, and it's to revive historic texts that are significant to the Harari people. The first is Fatwa Rahman, which is a book comprised of 5 chapters of salawat, sending peace and blessings to the Prophet ﷺ. This book is traditionally recited by Harari's elders as part of their daily litanies, completing this recitation weekly. The second is Qasida al-Warraq, which is the book comprised of 20 chapters of Qasida, lines of poetry in remembrance and praise of the Prophet ﷺ. And this book was traditionally recited by Harari's elderly on a yearly basis, mainly after Tarawih prayers during Ramadan. The third is the Mawlud Kitab, which is a recollection of the Prophet's life. It highlights conception, upbringing, life milestones, his character, and physical traits. This book traditionally is recited by Harari elders on a yearly basis in the month of Rabi al-Awwal during the traditional Mawlud ceremony. And lastly, the last book that we have is Al-Arba'un Yasin, which is a series of dua, supplication that are recited in between verses of Surah Yasin of the Quran. It is believed that the supplications made during recitation of this text are likely to be accepted, and elders of Harari traditionally recited this text in times of curing the sick, fulfilling individual or communal needs, and at times of calamity, such as natural disasters. And lastly, I want to end up by saying it's up to us. Preserving the identity of Harari people is a communal and global effort, whether we are within the ancient walls of Harari, Ethiopia, or throughout the diaspora community. The Harari people over the last 2 centuries have faced many adversities and barriers to preserving our culture. However, we still firmly hold on to our identity. It's up to us to put an effort into preserving our culture for the generations to come. Thank you all for listening today, and if you have any questions, I'll be outside at our booth. You can follow us on Instagram, 2m_project, and if you want to support us or be involved, just send us an email at threadsofmemory@gmail.com. We'll be selling a few volume 1 copies today outside, so please come by. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum. It was a long day today. If you don't mind, can you stand up and just stretch? That way at least she will give you great information for all of us that can use. Yeah. And Dr. Christine Sciacca, she's the curator of the Water Art Museum. Please have a seat, ma'am. Please. She's the curator of the Water Art Museum, and she was involved in the Zikhayrat crossroads exhibition. And she's been working on this one for the last 3 years. The Water Art Museum, they had an exhibition in 1993, and I was part of it. It took us 31 years to bring the art again to the Water Art Museum. And this time, it's not only Ethiopian Christian art, but Harari art as well. Art from Oromo region, from Harari region, as well as from the southern part of Ethiopia. And Dr. Sciacca, she's a curator of the museum, and she opened the door to all of us. You are invited to participate, especially the young generation who lives in Baltimore. You can volunteer and participate at the museum. And I really want to thank for her to come here, operate the door for Harari, for the cities, and for the Oromos to come and participate in the museum. And she's Harari, as you see, she was in Harar, in Ethiopia, and El Salvador. Dr. Christine Sciacca, please be with us.
I really admire and love Harari dress, so I did the best I could with what I had, which is not a lot. I have a Ethiopian style dress from a Nigerian designer and an Egyptian scarf. And I asked my husband how I looked before I left the house, and he said, "You look kind of Eastern European." So you can see I'm not Harari, I'm not even Ethiopian, but I did the best that I could. So I'm very grateful to be here today. And so grateful for the kind invitation from Sultan Mohammed. Very glad to soon call you a friend and to be included in this day. I've learned so much already from all of you, and I look forward to learning even more today. As Aziz mentioned, I am the curator of medieval objects at the Walters Art Museum in Baltimore. And first of all, I have to ask the question, how many of you have been to the Walters Art Museum? Yay, that's a lot of people. I'm the second time. This is great. So, what that means at the Walters, being the curator of medieval objects, I cover about the years 300 CE to 1400 CE. And that means not just objects from Europe, but also means objects from Armenia, from Russia, from Georgia, the country, not the state, and also very importantly, Ethiopia. So we have at the Walters one of the largest collections of Ethiopian art outside 225 objects. And these are manuscripts, coins, sculpture, we have paintings, icon paintings, and so forth and so on, healing scrolls as well. We also, at the Walters, did the first exhibition of Ethiopian art in the United States 30 years ago, as Aziz mentioned, called African Zion. And it appeared at the Walters in 1993 and traveled to 7 other museums in the United States. And that exhibition catalog became my textbook when I was first introduced to Ethiopian art as a graduate student. However, our collection is very limited. So all of the objects we have, I would say about 99%, come from the Christian highlands of Ethiopia. So this is only telling one part of the story of Ethiopian material culture, of visual culture, and when I first learned about Ethiopian art, as I mentioned, 25 years ago as a graduate student, I was only taught about the Christian art of Ethiopia. But thanks to doing further research and meeting with some amazing colleagues from Harar and collaborating with colleagues who study Harari artwork, it became very important for me that our museum, the Walters, introduce our visitors to the broader picture of Ethiopian art and culture. And so this was the result. Oh, sorry, that's me. Oh, sorry. This is our gallery of Ethiopian art at the Walters Art Museum, embedded at the very center of our medieval galleries. It doesn't always have a gentleman playing an upright bass in it. That was just a special event we had with the DC musicians called Polarity, and that's Jerron White, who leads up that group, a jazz ensemble who are not Ethiopian either, but work with many Ethiopian musicians in the DC area. And so when he heard we had a collection of Ethiopian art, he wanted to perform in those galleries, and it was a real transformative experience to be in that space and to hear the jazz and to be surrounded by these Ethiopian objects. So, however, showing the broader picture of Ethiopia. So that was the inspiration for the exhibition that I curated at the Walters from December last year. You can see the dates there, December last year till March of this year, called Ethiopia at the Crossroads. And I know at least 2 of you in this room, 3 of you in this room, 4 of you in this room have seen this exhibition. How many saw Ethiopia at the Crossroads? Okay, great. That's my baby, it's my exhibition baby, so thank you so much for coming. One of the first things I did 7 years ago when I started planning Ethiopia at the Crossroads was to reach out to other scholars, I'll come back to that, and also to our local Ethiopian community in the DMV area. I think you all know that the DMV has the largest Ethiopian diaspora population in the United States and the 2nd largest in the world, and that's huge. That's huge. That is our local community here. So although I studied Ethiopian art for 25 years, I'm clearly not Ethiopian myself, and so it was very important for me to assemble a community advisory group made up of individuals from the DMV area, all either Ethiopian or Ethiopian American. And this led me to my dear friend Abdulaziz Zikhayrat, who you remember from standing up here 5 minutes ago. And it was through Aziz that I really learned about the artistic traditions of Harar. Happy to now know that the largest Harari population in North America is actually centered in Toronto, Canada, not to give any downplay the DC community. My in-laws are all in Toronto, and I had no idea that my very own father-in-law lived right down the street from the Harari Cultural Center in the Danforth in Toronto. So this all comes full circle. I was very excited about that. Got to visit with some of Aziz's family who lives in Toronto. Some of them are here today as well, and really understand those traditions that have come across here. Having been to Aziz's house here in Silver Spring, come back to all of this, been to his family's house in Toronto. What I learned from Aziz is that they bring Harar with them. So anytime I step into one of those spaces, and I was welcomed into those spaces, you feel as if you're stepping into Harar. So this is something that I really greatly appreciated experiencing. It's right around the corner from the people that I love as well. Okay. So one thing we did with our community advisory committee was to record some of their voices, to hear some firsthand accounts. What are the important things that they want everyone to know about Ethiopian art, about Harari art? And what we did in the case of Aziz is that we recorded him talking about the basketry tradition in Ethiopia, especially in Harar. Of course, it's throughout Ethiopia, but in different traditions in different places. So we recorded actually 5 of these videos that were placed throughout the exhibition, and now live on Honor and Walter's YouTube website, so you can at your leisure watch these videos. And this is hearing directly from members of my advisory committee talking about the significance of different aspects to their own lives, their lived experience with these objects, with these traditions. And so I show you here Aziz in his home in Silver Spring, a little still from the video, where he explains the basketry tradition and also talks about what is the significance of these in his home, in his life, and also introducing the figure of his auntie Amina Sherif, who is a famous basket maker still in Qatar today. She's in the beautiful orange and yellow scarf. And talking about supporting her family through this incredibly detailed basketry that she produced. And I guess I didn't need any slides because I'm surrounded by these baskets. This is incredible. I had one right here that I didn't know where it went, but it was a very beautiful example, a lidded basket with these calorie straps on it, which is of great interest to me. And also featured in this video is somebody else in this room, Bakala, who's sitting right here in the front, so we may have done basket weaving with her. She also was very kind to come to the Walters, and we recorded her actually in our founders, William and Henry Walters' parlor, that's part of our building today. And she set up her baskets and showed how they are woven. So I would encourage you to go to the Walters YouTube site. You can watch the video all together, the whole thing, and learn a bit more about their construction, their meaning. I'll show you a few examples how we had them installed in the Ethiopia at the Crossroads exhibition if you didn't come to see it. It was important for me that people who visit the exhibition, especially those who have never been to Ethiopia, to understand how you would experience these objects. It's one thing to look at them in a museum gallery, it's another thing to understand how they were used. So this area right here, we had a big blow up of the interior of a Harari home. And we installed the baskets right in front of that wall. And you can see, we haven't even, this is during installation, we haven't even put the case on top, the vitrine. And I sent a picture of this to somebody outside the museum right when we put it up, and they said, oh my goodness, how long did it take you to install all of those baskets? And I said, no. There's only 5, the 5 in the front. But you can see how this made it feel as if you're stepping into a Harari home, even though we have just the 5 baskets in the front. Like I said, we don't have any materials like this at the Walters Art Museum. Not yet, please. And these were all borrowed from the Peabody Essex Museum in Salem, Massachusetts. Not a big Ethiopian community, but the largest Ethiopian art collection in the US, over 500 objects, which I had no idea. They were one of our partners in the exhibition traveled there, and also one basket on the far right from the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which is, of course, Minneapolis being the second largest Ethiopian diaspora community in the US. So the baskets themselves have 3 functions, as you can appreciate the fire, everybody knows this. Obviously they are functional, so serving and storing food. They are also decorative, as you can see by the display on the walls, the display behind me here, and also the patterns have meaning quite often. And so the basket by from Minneapolis, this is a close-up of it. Learned a great deal about this from Aziz and his brother Amal, Zikhayrat, in Ethiopia, about the mother-in-law basket. So a basket that a new bride would weave for her mother-in-law as a sort of peace offering, a gift for a happy marriage moving forward, and then the mother-in-law would, if accepted, she accepted, would hang it on her wall and then display the fact that her son was married, or her 3 sons were married, or so forth and so on. Next to the immersive backdrop, we wanted to really immerse visitors in not just the images you would see and the sights you would see in Ethiopia, but also some of the sounds and some of the smells. So those of you who came to the show, you know that there were 3 stations where we had these little cards, kind of business card size, and we put the scents from Ethiopia, some of the smells of Ethiopia on those cards. And we actually worked with an institute in Oxford in the UK, affiliated with the university. These are physicists who are very skilled at extracting the scents of things. So we sent them several different things. They made the smell of frankincense, they made the smell of an Ethiopian manuscript, which I can tell you smells very different from a European manuscript. I used to be a manuscript curator. And finally, berbere spice, which you're all familiar with. The spice on berbere spice on those cards was actually Baltimore berbere. So we worked with local Ethiopian chefs who ground the spice fresh and mailed it off to Oxford in the UK, and they put it directly onto these scratch and sniff cards. So this was a really effective way to stand in front of the display, scratch the card, and understand some of the smells you would experience as food interacted with this basketry. Another very important aspect of Harari visual culture and history and religion that I really wanted to bring up was that, as we have already heard, of course, we have the founding of the city of Harare. This is why we're all here today. We have the Prophet Muhammad during his lifetime in the 7th century, sending exiles from Mecca who were being persecuted to Ethiopia, where they were accepted, they were welcomed, and then settling in the eastern part of Ethiopia, eventually founding the city of Harar. So, and of course, as we also know, Harar became the 4th holy city of Islam. It also became an incredible center of Islamic learning and book production to serve the needs for the study of the Quran. And we have here on the screen one example that we had in the exhibition on display. Most Harari Quran still remain in Harar. And at the Walters, we have a few Quran from West Africa, but none from East Africa, none from Ethiopia. And so this is where I brought in my colleague, Dr. Sana Mirza from the National Museum of Asian Art, who wrote her dissertation at New York University on Harari manuscripts. And she let me know that while most manuscripts from Harar are still there are quite a few that are in a particular private collection in the US. And so I was able to show some of these in the exhibition. This is one, very characteristic in its decorations, it's very special to Harar, where you have these circular frames around the text, and the type of palette that you see here, the reds, the browns, some black ink as well. It's very characteristic. This is something that is very special to Harar. And then also here, another example on the left, we have another manuscript from Harar, from the Malikian collection, 19th century. This might even look a bit to you like the, I think it was a Quran, that was outside on the table out there, with Amal, and this is really distinctive because of the way all the marginal notations and the commentary is written kind of on a diagonal. Can you tell I'm an art historian? Around the outside. I cannot read Arabic, so I can't read these, but I had a lot of help from Sana and from some other experts. We show these with some of those Quran we have from West Africa, but again, the importance, and this is one from possibly from Nigeria we have on the right-hand side in the Walters collection. Really important to understand that origin of Islam and all of that manuscript production, a lot of people know about West African Quran. It's actually all coming through Ethiopia, it's coming through Harar, so really significant to understand that. We showed some of these African Quran together, and in fact together with Christian manuscripts, because one tradition they share is the making of leather cases to carry these books, and also so they're portable, and also to hang them above the floor when they're not being used. And so we show examples that come in with Quran, kind of more to the right-hand side, and then with Christian manuscripts on the left. And then on the other side of the case is where we had these Harari Quran, actually one Quran, one other text. And so you could look at those Quran, and you could look across at the space in a Harari home. On the left there is the video screen, so just have a caption there, but the video screen where we had the video with Paula and with Aziz and Auntie Amina, and then that group of folks are standing around the card display. So this is meant to make you feel as though, I'm going to use your words, Aziz, this is the safe space in the home. And so this is, I think, probably one of the most engaging parts of the exhibition. If you did not go see the exhibition or you want to know more, there is a 400-page catalog of the exhibition that is available at the Walters Art Museum in our bookstore. But don't tell them I said this, it's even cheaper on Amazon, so feel free to order it off of there. I actually ordered a few copies myself. And in that catalog is a fantastic essay by, again, Dr. Sana Mirza on Harari manuscripts, much bigger expert than I by far. During the exhibition, I wanted to bring up that, and I don't know, is anyone in this image here in the room? Aziz brought, I see you. I already know some people in this image. Aziz brought together a group, both from the Harari community here in the DMV and also from the Muslim Community Center in Silver Spring to visit the exhibition. And we did walk through the exhibition together, but also Aziz arranged a moment where we could all pray together on the 4th floor of our museum, where we have our Asian art and Islamic art. So we actually have an incredible collection of Islamic art at the Walters. Most of it, all of it not from Ethiopia, but we do have that there for you to see anytime. And it was a wonderful moment for me to experience and to be together with this group. I should mention, since I'm pitching for the Walters, we are a completely free museum. So if you're in Baltimore and you have half an hour, stop in. If you have a whole day, stop in and spend looking at our Asian art. We always have Ethiopian art on view. We always have Islamic art on view. So I welcome you to the Walters. And finally, if you do want to see the exhibition, if you missed it, I mentioned that I traveled to two other venues beyond Baltimore. So it was in Peabody, Essex and Salem, Massachusetts this spring. And just last week it opened at the Toledo Museum of Art in Toledo, Ohio. So this is only an hour away from Detroit. It's 2 hours from Cleveland. I'm not sure how far it is from Columbus. We just had our friend speaking to us from. And only 7.5 hours drive from here, from this very location. So it is open now. This is a little sneak peek of what it looks like there. So please tell your family and friends in the area that art from Hadar is being featured right here in America, so that audiences here can understand the incredible cultural production and of this area of great historical significance in Ethiopia. Thank you.
من تحبم البني كانت آتي كشوف والتقوى أفضل من الرضا والكل يسح كشاك سني مفاتيحك هذه جزاء ما أمنت شيء لا يقل أمنت ثاني لا يقل لسنة كلا هذا يقصد الغاية من أقسام اللغة الأمة لكم كنتيوا أهلك النظر الجهد لحلح باي تنفذ شروط إذا المنطقة إذا أزول المنطقة لحلح بايو سما ذلك عوض إليك بأبدوك نبريك إيك تفاقز العشتان خمستي وأبدي أحد مكينة ورسل عليك أعنو بايو قرشك الفيشكو قرشكونا أشناكو يا أمس بأحد رفضنا لكن أعنستي شكوزيتو شيشتي كتنعمي وخبزي عايزة حربي بلي أتاك بكيزو إذا قلبتنا من طاب إذن في بطن ترسمه بايرو أعوى عايزة وأكثر ربي زحكلا أو عايو أكيد كلامونا سليكنا مانية المولد الناوي كل خشنتا أعوى عايزة جو إيكو مع مرتدون وزوكرتون عايزة وحدي كرسي بيتي تنتنا أشرل تزاك سليكنا أو عايزنا بيت وأعمل صاحبنا كل خشنتا كيلي أمزيبي بجيش لما تباري وزوكرتون بجيش تعرف يمزين بجوك يوم يمزين للرب تطبيقنا أمامه. كان الفكرة في كشف أم زيبح أمامها ولكن أم زينة ساسلي أو أي سالنا كنا يتيم مهملين من زينة باينا أو أي سالنا كده كنت مرة كلا زيبح مساء ونوب إنجليزنا بكسرنا ولكن أنا خاصة مساء إنجليزنا بكسرنا مبنى إقبام خرجت من الرسمان من المسلك البنا كل خشكا على قدير الإجراء أساس ننظر بكسنا أحد كم جيل كيلا سيبح تصنيدا ما ممكن بهمت كسني بهر شبايو هيبت مردات انتي باتما ايمن فيو أزو صافز بكفايو هذا باتو كنتي تفا أو عيدنا نسان تراجعنا كشوكتنا مدرسة بيني ديجنا وران كي بقولنا هم الفنا بدر كماني أنا أيوة كهرنا جيتا كيف سبب كنوني سناتنا بمثلث كرنا على كبيرة مثل الشيء يساني بغاية جزاب إن ينشروا كوبي بيزي خانجرا أو عيات سنان سوزا وطنما بشكل وغيرا بيك سنان وقتی اتكبرت من سنان خطب المولي سألتي بأحد البرجكاري تلو أحد السائل الليل أمشنا ذاته حجاتنا جاهنت بريات شيوخوتا بشير ليدية يكلمنا أو آيات سنان نطيو بليما نشيو إن يعشون سنان سنبيزك بايت حلبنا تترى نفسها على السنان بين مسانا الحلبنا فوجي بيني لنا أحد أمة يوفد بك كتش أمها الواعي لتأذو سنان سنلي إبداع على واسنة سنان يتمثل كي لي سنان سنان سكول زوجي لكن يمثل قد يمر علينا من كتب إحرى سنان سنان لمدنا إما يكون مكان فايتها البنا كم سنة آيات وآواش ممكن في متسم كلها وهري يبهرني أعوى آياتنا سنتنا وسناتنا تتنين كل تكسر هنا ووقع رد إستيقام لهن هي اسم أتلنا أذكارنا يشوت بيعتال مننا إذن نكون عليهم اللهم دار
صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليالي الفجر صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليالي الفجر صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليالي الفجر صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليالي الفجر يا رسول الله بيت خانع في نبي ويت براجاتك الحيق كافي وجود وداجه نبي زين حافي مصطفى حرمة بيتك انك يا كافي قدرة ذا بيت اخاك تشافي كل يوم وليالي صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليالي أفضل خلق يوزي أنبياء اشتاجا الله أمري بمثل معراجا جنة المفتاح محمد سراجا صلاة مصوم يا قوة ماجا فتنة فرجت بين يا شيخ حراجا كل يوم وليالي صل يا ربي على محمد صل يا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد لا يوم وليالي بزو قرآنا نسمي زوزي رخبون وراشي مرجانا أفزل لبرحوم وتلي ورقانا من أخت ربي وحبيب زو رحمانا إلى خليد الأجد تدخو بنا نسخر كل يوم وليلة نذكر صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليلة وصل ما خلق ويتوتو كسنخنا زدك بالخلق في أشبتك بلنا فجزنا كله خالق ستنا زيدي بولد نعمة خبير مصطفى الشير منا مكان بقى في ثلاثة قلب كلنا كل يوم وليلة صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليلة عبد الله نور وقزوم مكانا سمسم جربوا ياسين وطهانا محمد حلا قلبي الأمانة ندوان الزلي محجر دوانا زخاف تنوى السنا حيوانا كل يوم وليلة صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليلة مغرب سوى عربا يديك ديك زوج زوق جاربا صلاة منخا وزن يا ربا زيد وبحث جنة أصحابا بريك فاشن تخفيف لنا بابا كل يوم وليلة صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم سورة سورة محمد رسول فاسزا فساد بنت مكة يبين وخزوم أزيك زلزلت ولاد رسول بيت لا عمر لبد أحمد وزن حق دخل أعبي يخبر وعاد كل يوم وليلة صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليلة كل أنبياء شف سيدي فلوسا حازوا محل موسى بمرجوسا خالق زدل ودليل دابوسا كوت كيما مودا سلام نبوسا حضره نبوكت نبيوت خاف مساء كل يوم وليلة الفكر صلينا ربي على محمد صلينا ربي على محمد بارك يا ربي على محمد كل يوم وليلة الفكر كل يوم وليلة كل يوم وليلة اللهم صل وسلم عليه صلى الله وسلم عليه
الله 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 صلواتي على النبي وسلامي
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 أحد قال لي الله وحد الخطاب وحد
صلواتي على النبي وسلامي
Alright, what we're going to do right now is going to do a little bit of reflection of the presentation with Dr. Zaki, Sherif. And before he comes on stage, if I can everybody have sit down and stay quiet for 1 second for us. Thank you so much. Dr. Zaki Sherif, if I can get you on the stage. Dr. Zaki Sherif.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin wa salatu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. My job is very, very brief here. Can you hear me? I'm supposed to give reflection about the presentation that came before me, basically reviewing and summarizing, okay? And then I'll give you the take-home message today, inshallah. Remember that we are gathered here for the mission. The mission is broad. The mission is extremely time sensitive, and we cannot afford to rely or bend our knees on time, because time is fleeting, and that is the first message that was delivered here in the presentation. I'm going to skim through some of the presenters' messages, and then I'll give you the take-home messages at the end. I only have 10 minutes. Brother Shakur from the Harari Heritage Association from Virginia gave a welcoming speech. He thanked Sultan Mohammed Hassan vision at the same time for the contribution to this event. And then that was followed by Imam Muhammad of Silver Spring. He also discussed differences between cultures and the Islamic religion. So he made sure that we don't mix our cultural practices with Islamic religious principles. If our cultures can be integrated into Islamic practice, that's fine, but not the other way. That's what the message that he passed on to us. And then Imam Nurullahi Jalabi of Diyanet Center also recited the Quran and the Quran, and he was followed by the chairman of the board of the trustees, I believe, the Diyanet Cultural Center here, Dr. Fatih Taji. He basically discussed the tapestry of culture, language, and history, especially the heritage of Harari, and he also cited some connections with the Ottoman Empire during that time, and the connections that we still have with the Turkey people, and this masjid, of course, is the host of this event, mashallah. The other one was Dr. Imam Ghalib, who served in many military bases around the country for American military bases. Of course, he is African American, and he related some of the practices of African Americans before they became Muslim. They were enslaved, they brought in ships, and finally they were serving and building this country, including the White House. Since we are very close to the White House, right here in the city, they built it. And somebody else, of course, is using it as usual. So that's the other thing he mentioned. And then Masjid Muhammad, he's the Imam of Masjid Muhammad. Sometimes I go there to pray. And he also made sure that we understand the Bilalic, or the Bilalian connection, instead of just focusing on the other aspects of cultural heritage from other sides of the world, but he also wanted to make a connection between African Americans and the mother continent, which is of course Africa. And in that respect, he wanted us to make sure that we read some of the newsletters that they actually distribute in the city. It used to be called Bilalian News, now it's called the Muslim Journal. The other focus, and of course the presenter, was the real master of this event. That was our brother, our envoy, you can say, the Sultan Muhammad Hassan, his visionary, and then at the same time, he is the connector. I call him the connector because he connects the past with the present. The past is something that you definitely have to realize, understand, comprehend, for you to be able to go and move forward. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to connect the past with the present, and then bringing all these different communities, Sunni communities, brothers and sisters in Somali communities, Afar communities, and Oromo communities as well. So it is the combination of his effort, what we are seeing and witnessing today, alhamdulillah. He mentioned some of the common values and principles that these different communities share. He also connected all these communities to their underlying heritage, which is Islam, and the common heritage Islam. He also mentioned some aspect of the testament that this has on our collective being as Muslims, and all the cultures that we share, and also the practices that we are common to us. He also mentioned the Sultan's great grandfather actually was connected to Abdullahi al-Sadiq, he said, and that was one of the envoys, the emissary, that was basically carrying the message from Ethiopia all the way to the Ottoman Empire at that time. So Sultan Muhammad Hassan has some connection with the Ottoman Empire, which is found today. So he basically wanted us to make sure that we have a unified family. When we talk about family, we're not just talking about family of immediate bloodline, families of the city line, Afar, Somalis, Oromos, anyone and everyone that has really kept and maintained and preserved the heritage that we call Madinatul Awliya, which is Zikhayrat, mashallah. And then there was the Harari National Anthem was sung by our beautiful sisters. You know, I have to confess, I don't know the Harari Anthem, I'm actually ashamed. I think we should really know this by heart and we should practice it. The other one, the community leaders from Dr. Muhammad Ali from Somali community. He made sure that there were connections from the past between Harari, and he also mentioned Sheikh Abadr, and he actually cited the specific example and past history of the role of Sheikh Abadr in bringing Islam to the Somali community as well. And the other thing, as an example, of course, is that the main point of destruction, he said, especially in the artifacts. Something that's very important that he mentioned, Dr. Muhammad Ali from the Somali community. He said that the way that they destroy people's values, principles, and Islamic connection is to go right down the alley and then destroy the artifacts. Those heritage aspects of it. This kind of thing. This is what they destroy, and then eventually that's how they conquer the land. And then, of course, if the land is not there, there's no recollection of the people, no attachment, no binding to the land. It is easy to erase it. And then Dr. Imam Muhammad from Masjid Muhammad, he also mentioned the same thing. The African Americans, their history was erased. That's why they had no history, because they were brought here, shipped here, enslaved on ships, and then again support their own will, and eventually what happened? They were erased. Their spirit was also dashed. So when they were looking for this way out, Islam came to the rescue, mashallah. That's one thing he mentioned. And then Brother Kari from the Silti community, he mentioned that he was prepared to talk in Silti, but unfortunately everybody was talking in English, so he probably was translating right there in the transition to this podium. But he did mention the linguistic similarities and cultural connections between Harari and the Silti community. Brother Said Bore from Afar community, as we saw him on the Zoom, he mentioned that Sultan Muhammad was the principal cardinal connector, and it's because of him that the Afar community is now being awakened to that past history and connection between Harari and Afar community, and at the same time, the different cultural and the value principles that we share. The other thing he also mentioned to us is Afars came as immigrants to this country in 1991, very recent compared with the other communities, and he wanted us to, have them organized. At the same time, he said, please invest in Afar. So if you have some money in the bank, extra money there is, please think about that. And then we have Amal, Abdulrahman, mashallah. Amal, right? Amal Abdulrahman. Mashallah, the project manager and coordinator of the Thread of Memory. Such a beautiful name. The acronym that they use, TOM, Thread of Memory. That means if you don't have memory, you don't know your past. If you don't know your past, you don't know your history. If you don't know your history, you are condemned to repeat the mistakes of your fathers, grandfathers, your ancestors. That's exactly what it is. And then the initiative that they started in 2017, mashallah, the aims were Harari Custom Culture Series, manuscript preservation, cultural presentation. I mean, she brought beautiful slides showing us exactly what they're doing. And she's from Harvard, so they teach them how to actually present using slides. So I'm sure that helped her a great deal. The team of researchers that are translating English literature manuscript from Harari to English. That's exactly what we want. The problem we have as Hararis is that we don't have an institution. If you don't have an institution, every person who is on a committee is doing a great job. But those committees, they don't last. They don't have legs. They cannot walk and then at the same time run. And then they don't have any kind of data collection. There's no institutional memory. If we have institutions like the ones that maybe Sister Amal is building in the future, we can translate our past manuscripts, our heritage, anything else, oral history from our living legends that are still living in Harar. My grandmother, not my grandmother, my grandmother's sister, I don't know how you say it in English, my grandmother's sister, in the Islam we say Umma Daraja, she's 107. She still lives, so somebody can still go there the oral history of our culture from her. The other thing that was mentioned, I bought the book. Amal has a booth or a table outside in the atrium. She's selling this volume of Harari cultural ceremonials, right? And the volume one is wedding tradition, that's the one I got. And please help them out. Go out on your way from this meeting before Asr, inshallah, and then purchase the books. And then Dr. Christine Sciacca, mashallah, she's still here? Mashallah, I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. But she is an epitome of somebody who understands and sees externally the culture and then comes back inside the hall, tells us how beautiful our culture is. Such an amazing presentation that she did. And sometimes we take it for granted, right? And we don't work hard for it. Those people from outside, they see it, they love it, and they wonder why it's not being promoted and then actively shown all over the world. So I really appreciate what she mentioned. Of course, she told us to come and visit the Walters Arts Museum in Baltimore. It was 1 hour from here. I promise you I'll come and see you there with my kids and my wife. And at the same time, to learn about, even though there are only about 200 artifacts or museum materials representing Harar, most of which, say 99% is from the Christian, because the Christian community is working very hard to make sure they preserve their heritage. And the Harari community must definitely do the same. And then the exhibition, of course, she mentioned that was on tour, and now it's still available, Toledo and other places in this area. And then we have, where I was going to mention something about Sister Bakala Ahmed Rashid, mashallah. She is the person who really promotes, works so hard, dedicated, committed, completely, because I don't get a chance to hear her speak because she was supposed to come before me, but since they changed the program, I want to say ahead of time about her. She works very hard, without sleep. She is from Toronto. She travels on her own dime. In other words, she takes money out of her pocket, goes wherever she's asked to go. And right now she has this presentation, I think around 10:30 when we showed up today. She was, basically showing us what was on the table, all the artifacts, explaining to us exactly what they represented, what the meaning of this dress is, what's the actual value item was behind that dress or behind that mold and other things like that. She's a wealth of knowledge. If there was an institution, that institution would have completely used a lot of her knowledge and wisdom and put it in the memory of that institution. But she's not working, she's working by herself. May Allah bless her, give her long life and health. Okay, the take-home message from all these people. I had to write it up very fast, okay? So I hope I have 3 moments, inshallah. Okay. Barakallahu fiki. Okay, here, the take-home message is that you, as Hararis, have a legacy, not only in language, in culture, as well as enlightenment. This enlightenment should not be in the bosom of the Hararis. It should be dispersed, disseminated out for the rest of humanity. As Muslims, we should definitely make efforts to bring joy, pleasure, good kind of, tidings to the world. That is what our principal aim and also our role is in this life. So, as Hararis, we have a superb heritage. I'm talking about summarizing, taking the essence of the speaker's presentation. Okay, the essence, the take-home message. You were successful in integrating Islam fully into your fabric, into your society, into your culture, language, and heritage. Basically, what they're saying to us is that, if you remember, the speaker from Silver Spring, Imam Muhammad, he said that don't mix culture and religion. And in Harar, they didn't do that. We did not mix culture and religion. We put all of our culture, our language, everything that we actually use from day to day into Islam. And that's what made it so beautiful. The Islamic culture was basically embedded into our culture. So you were successful integrating Islam. You were successful in da'wah, in propagating it. Hararis, once we received that Islamic information, we didn't hold it to ourselves. Every place we went to, we built schools, abandoned schools. Next to abandoned schools, we have masjid. That's how we spread Islam everywhere. I'm talking about all Hararis. I'm not talking about the Hararis of today. I'm doing dua for the Hararis of today. Okay, and then we have the Islam that is the nuclear fabric of society in Harari practice and throughout that region with the other ethnic groups, other brothers and sisters in the area. You serve as trailblazers. I'm talking about Hararis, according to the summary of the species, and guiding light for many generations, including Sudis, Afars, Somalis, Oromos, and yes, you also learn from these communities and strengthen your own presence on this land. And then the other thing that we also have to make sure is that we cannot dwell in the past. The past is great, it makes us feel good about what our grandfathers and grandmothers did, but if we are dwelling in the past, we cannot move forward and we cannot be present in life as it exists in reality. And then we have, so that means, I think Sultan Muhammad Hassan is the one who mentioned, if you try to keep the past but not shape the future, especially regarding the Azebs, the children and the young ones, the rising stars, then the past is going to be a fleeting. It does not really help us move forward in the future. And those who don't extract knowledge and wisdom from their past are committed or at least condemned to repeat the mistakes of their ancestors. And I think I was trying to finish up one last one before my name was called to the stage, but let me try to improvise. Okay? As our children are assimilated, especially in the societies they live in, we talk about Western societies, they are integrating into the Western societies. There are very good things about Western values and principles, absolutely there are. But then there are some values and principles that contradict our heritage, our Islamic religious practices as well. So how do we make sure that our children's attitude, the children's principles, the values do not get overwhelmed or taken over, and then they look up to the Western style of life, and then they basically condescendingly look at the heritage that they probably don't understand or they never learned. So that is our main objective, is to make sure that they learn their heritage. And all of us here are responsible for our children. We should keep them away from the trap of this world and also the infiltration into their minds and hearts. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.